bro.
One of the interesting things is I saw on your website that a lot of your art on your like T-shirts, the design, all comes from local artists in New York. That's a big Lower East Side thing as well. Because when I moved into town, at least this area, I used to live up in Harlem, and then I lived even in Washington Heights for a little while before I came down here. And it's all these art stores that source from local artists nearby. You're doing kind of the same thing. Talk about how you kind of thought to do that and what it's like working with these artists.
I'm deep in the art community, though. That's the thing about it, right?
Let's talk about it.
So I had stopped doing music for a long time, and I got to my regular life shit and paying bills and all of that, but always had an affinity for art, specifically like street art and graffiti, just coming from the Lower East Side. That's part of the DNA of the neighborhood, you know?
Absolutely.
So when you talk about late 80s, 90s, and you see like Lee Quinones, you see people, you know, you see the Keith Harings, but you also see, you know, all of the local graph heads and legends doing their thing. That kind of shapes and molds you. So, like, I've started doing street art photography maybe 20 years ago.
Nice.
And just capturing it. Like, you walk by some shit, it's inspiring, you know, and created a feed out of that. And that ended up being my Instagram handle.
Nice.
And one day I'm sitting home and I'm looking at it as a body of work, and I'm saying, this is kind of a gallery show.
Right, 100%.
And I had established a hashtag called Crack Image Crew.
Yeah, and there's tons of galleries in the area, too.
Yeah.
Big art scene.
The art scene has really exploded in the last, 5 to 10, but the art scene has always been downtown. You know what I mean? If you look at the history of especially, contemporary urban art, you know, that's downtown.
Yeah.
Like, that's the neighborhood.
Absolutely.
So the long and the short is I started a movement called Shooter Street Art. Shooter Street Art, we do a street art scavenger hunt. And so I started recruiting different artists to participate in that, different street art photographers who really are like just dope humans, and it became my community.
That's so
cool.
And
I became a community organizer in a way, putting together the scavenger hunts, putting together the artists and the photographers and all of the people around that.
Right.
And so when I came back to music, I felt like it was really, really important that there was a representation of the art community with the visual aesthetic, but also that the music that I create is creative and visual. You know, I like to think of myself as a visual artist, but the medium is words.
Yeah, it's interesting how you kind of talk about that visual art, because one of my next questions is going to be, how does that art that you use inspire your music, you know? Or is it kind of the other way around? Do you make the music and then you think, all right, I got to find something that fits this vibe? Or is it kind of just like it works kind of together in a weird way?
Yeah, I think it's together in a weird way. I think when I'm writing bars, I'm painting in my mind. At least I'm seeing like snapshots and I'm trying to articulate that, right?
Yeah.
I think that just coming up around that and being influenced by that, that's kind of what inspired the style.
Right.
And then with regard to the art and how that comes into it, like I'll usually sit down with a homie or somebody who I admire and I'll say like, I have a record or I have an idea, or I have something that I think the style that you manifest would be perfect for.
Right.
And I'll send them the music. We'll have a conversation or two, and I just let them run. Like, I don't want to be involved in their interpretation of the music.
Yeah.
So usually the music comes first.
Yeah.
But it's usually given to somebody who I feel a certain way for that particular project.
Yeah, that's so interesting. Do you reach out to these guys on Instagram, or how do you find them?
Real
Is it
life.
just
We
in the
real
streets?
life, bro.
Yeah.
I'm outside.
Hell yeah,
Are you
man.
kidding me, bro?
Well, see, that's
like we go to the art shows. We go to Basel.
Hell
We're at all of the mural shows, the gallery shows, sticker shows. Like, we pull up.
Yeah, that's
And
good.
I say we because like it's me, but like my fam is always outside too.
It's interesting too because when I first got here and I started to do interviews and things like that, I was only finding rappers on Instagram to interview. But then I started to maybe meet a couple people, get in with the right circles, and then I started to do shows. I was going to the EO Dub, or you know what I mean. If there was the beatboxer Zanzi, who I think did it part of his heavy view. Yeah, he had a beatboxing show that I almost went out to, but I ended up traveling. I couldn't make it, but just like finding different events like that, you know what I mean? So that's definitely where you find people. But I asked because, I was looking online and I was seeing some incredible art, and I was like, I wonder where he finds them. So at first I started online, right? Yeah.
And then I started reaching out to people, and it's funny because you got to be outside and you got to know somebody, right?
Yeah, that's so true.
You got to have a guy.
And I learned that recently because I interviewed someone, and he was like, "Yo, come to this EO Dub show," and I was like, "Oh, what's this?" And then I showed up, and you know what I mean? That's how we met. So
and that's how your guy puts you on. Exactly. It's all a bunch of dots that connect, right?
Yeah, Mandela Skia, he was the one that I knew. Yeah,
there it is. Boom,
he's
fam.
a good guy. Yeah,
listen,
100%.
That's how this thing works, right?
Exactly.
It's the energy that you're putting out there, right? It's the vibration, it's the frequency. A like is attracting like.
100%.
So when I go outside, my energy is always the same. I'm Omar. I'm Pro.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They know me as both now, right?
Yep.
When I'm an organizer and I'm working in that community, I was Omar for a long time, and they just knew me as some guy who loves street art, who puts together shit.
Yeah, and occasionally raps.
Nah, never,
right?
never.
Oh, right. You were taking a break from rap.
Like,
that's right.
My art community is not based on me being an MC or having any affiliation with anything, right? It's just on the strength of me loving it,
right,
and wanting to do something dope and manifesting it and executing it.